Have you ever wanted or needed to know what modifications were made as part of a blueprint? There's a good chance, even if you haven't used Cherwell for very long, that you've either pursued this information or need to pursue it, or you already have tried to do this and perhaps you didn't find what you were looking for. Hi, I'm Jonathan Berdyck, Senior Solutions Consultant and Architect, and today we're going to go over how to examine blueprint modifications. Now, there are two basic ways to get this accomplished. Both paths, so to speak, lead to the same information. All right, so we've got the ability to look over the entire blueprint space, and we would find that under File, under Blueprint Changes here. The other way is that once we've made a modification to a business object, that we will have an additional menu item, or a few additional menu items rather, under the structure options for that respective business object. All this particular path does is filter out all of the other changes that have been made in the blueprint, presenting us only with the changes that have been made to this particular object. So how I'll demonstrate this is that we will rely on our trusty incident and change request objects in order to illustrate how this looks and feels once the changes have been made. So let's edit our business object. This is the incident object. I'll just call this test field number 5. We'll make it a date time field. We'll save early and saved often. So we'll update the blueprint with our changes. Navigate back to the object manager. Now we'll select change request. We'll do the same thing over here. I'll just make a quick modification to this. And maybe we'll just make that 25 characters there. Now from here, I'm going to go back to the object manager. And so as you have probably learned very quickly with using the system, that once we've made a modification to a business object in the system, that its text in the admin client editor will be italicized rather than just regular font. So we can, even without burrowing deep into this blueprint, we know that, hey, we've made a change to change request, and we also made a change to incident. Now, under File, Blueprint Changes, we're able to see all of the changes that we've made in the blueprint. And we have a couple of different ways to display this. We can display by business object. So this is first going by change request and incident and then listing the changes. Or we could do perhaps the definition type. And you'll see that, remember, when we add fields, as an example in this particular case, that it is actually adding that field content over to the portal default view, even though I added that field to the default view. So that's why we see two listings for each business object. We can also then look at by view and business object, or by view and then definition type. So there's a couple of different ways simply to reorganize the presentation of the information that you see. Now, if I hang out over on my trusty incident object, now we can see I have a couple of different menu items here under the structure options. I could actually undo the changes made in the blueprint. But I also could now view the blueprint changes for incident. Now all of it's doing is filtering out any other changes that I've made in the blueprint, presenting me only with the incident object. So we'll expand the business object selection, find incident, And now from here, we can begin to explore some of the deeper pieces of this actual the way that the blueprint changes are presented. You know, I mean, a blueprint is, of course, a file that holds all of the modifications that we have made, or customizations that we've made to our system. However, it needed to have a baseline to really understand what changed and what didn't. In particular, if we want to roll that blueprint back, the system has to know where it needs to go. So really we're going to do our evaluation of what's changed under the box that's going to appear once we hit compare. So we can now perform the comparison between what's been changed and what was the baseline. Its default presentation is that it's only going to bring back items that are different, so we don't have to filter through everything that the system has to offer us. So the only thing that was changed in this object was this field called test field number 5. And we can see that it is telling us the value is different. The child exists in the blueprint, but not the original. Now, if you were to expand that field, there's some additional metadata items that are available for this particular field addition. And so we will see this under all sorts of different changes in the system. Now, field changes are pretty easy because it's very obvious what it did. I mean, here it's telling us, hey, this was test field number 5. We created that, and now that's in the blueprint, and it wasn't there before. But if we were to do something such as maybe add that field to a particular form, so I've gone back in to edit the incident object, and I'll just open up the standard incident form, and we'll drag a field over there. We'll drag the field that we created over to the form. Again, we'll update the blueprint, and now if we were to, I will just go back to the object manager, look at view blueprint changes for incident. Now we can see that alongside the business object modifications, now we have a different listing for forms, and we can see that we've modified the incident form. So it does list the form name that that was in the system. However, the presentation from a metadata standpoint is a little bit more esoteric from our last go around. So we can see that a couple of different things like the adaptive layout def list has been changed. The control def list has been changed. I would imagine that here what we're looking at is likely the field that was added and the label that was added. So those are actually two different controls. So each one of these would represent each one of those respective pieces, and then expanding that down, we have any number of various items that we can look at from a metadata standpoint to examine the differences in the blueprint. Now, as you can imagine, this was a very simple example. Blueprints can obviously get very complex, so we might encounter any number of changes here, not only with a single object, but modifications that we've made all over the place in the system, because that gets done all the time. But at least you have a place that you can come and you can take a look at what's been done, especially if you needed to examine even some work that you did a little while ago and you forgot what you did. That never happens to anybody. But this is a good way to at least examine what's been accomplished in a particular blueprint. So there you have it. taking a look at blueprint modifications, not only globally across the entire spectrum of your blueprint, but also getting to it to those changes from a object point of view. So I hope this has proved valuable to your growth in Cherwell development. So until next time, have a great day.